Hello, all my friends in podcast land. Welcome to another episode of the Conquer Athlete podcast with myself, Ryan Bucciantini, and Jason Leydon. We're pumped to have you guys here. Yeah, I was off last week, hanging out
Where'd
in
you
the
go?
woods.
Tell the people where you went.
Was hanging out in the backwoods of Idaho, chasing bears.
Did you go bear hunting?
I did go bear hunting. Yeah, so all the Instagram haters can attack me for
Did but
shooting defenseless, helpless bears, but I did not shoot one, so you guys don't have to be too upset just yet.
did you not find them? Is your tracking skills lacking?
Man, no, we found them. I don't think my tracking skills are lacking. I may just be too slow.
Mm.
We chased them, but they're quick. Their spidey senses were high. They know it's the season, and they didn't want anything to do with us. And one was lucky; she had a little cub with her, so I can't
Couldn't
do
do that.
anything with that.
Yeah,
But
you couldn't take the mom out from the cub.
no, don't get me wrong. I would 100% do it if it wasn't
Would you
illegal.
really? Dude,
Yeah, this is how the strong get stronger. I mean, it wasn't like a baby baby. This was a teenager. Like it was time to come off the teat, and I would have been doing it a service.
we just lost all of our followers.
No, no, it's good. You guys should eat more. If you guys haven't tried bear, at least spring bear, maybe stay away from fall bear. Spring bear is phenomenal. It's very sweet. It's kind of beef-esque, just a little bit leaner.
I've never had bear.
Bro, I'm gonna send you some.
I've had elk, ostrich, deer, alligator, never bear.
I'm gonna send you some mama bear when it goes down, for sure.
I want the fucking spring bear though, not the fall bear.
Yeah, I don't mess with the fall bears
Yeah, why?
because they don't taste good.
Oh, okay.
It's yeah, whatever. It's a topic for another day. But
All right, all right.
yeah, I was in the backcountry, so I'm glad to be back with you. But Candace, our good friend at the Coach RX podcast, if we forget to talk about it again, is going to get mad at us. So this podcast is brought to you
Did we
by the
forget?
Coach RX podcast network, which if you guys haven't checked it out, whether you're a coach, athlete, this is my shameless plug for them. You guys should check it out. It's worthwhile. There's a bunch of good minds in there, a bunch of good coaches on the up and up. A lot of experience within the network. Talking about training, programs, coaching, pretty much the whole gamut. If you're into podcasts, it's worthwhile to go over there, check out, poke around, and see if there's anything you like, or just listen to ours, and that's also cool too.
There you go. Go check it out. It's great. Candace is an amazing woman. She's doing lots of great things for Coach RX and OPEX, and the podcast channel is a great resource for everybody.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad we got through all that. So, Candace, we love you. But today, so if the people don't know, we just
Mm.
finished up our first 12-week mentorship,
Yep.
which if you live under a rock and haven't seen or follow us on the socials, we've been blasting it obviously for the last 12 weeks, but I'm pretty fired up on it. I think this is a one of one. This is something that is totally unique in the space. Obviously, there's a lot of places people can get their education from, but I think what we're offering from a recorded content and then individualized one-on-one feedback from you and I is like nothing else that's out there. So that's what's going to drive us into today's episode of The Coach's Coach, who's challenging you to get better. So figured we could talk a little bit about our own kind of mentorship experiences, whether it's people you've mentorshipped under. I know you've done a ton of continuing education. I've done a ton of continuing education, and I think that's really molded who we are as coaches. So you're never above learning from someone else. Everybody else brings unique experiences, unique methods, or life experiences to their coaching game. So why not learn from a multitude of people and expand your coaching horizons?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so important for coaches to always be looking to elevate their coaching game by educating themselves more. And what I've realized over the years is, there's three different stages of learning. You have, like your carpenter stage where you're just kind of putting in all the work, and we'll call it the apprentice stage, right? You're putting in all the work, you're doing all the work, you're just taking as much information and knowledge as you can, going to as many seminars as you can, and you're continually trying to niche out who you are as a coach, right? And then from there, you kind of segue into like an apprentice stage, right? That kind of middle level stage where, did I just say apprentice
Twice.
twice? Twice, yeah. The first stage, I'm
Super
sorry.
apprentice.
Listen, it has been a very long day. You have your super apprentice stage, right? And then after that, you sort of have that middle level stage, and I can't even think of a cool name to call it right now.
We'll call it associate level.
Yeah, a craftsman. You
Okay.
become a craftsman now, or associate level. Ryan rolled his eyes when I said craftsman. But you reach this point where you take the information that you learned and then you look to craft who you are as a coach. You look to put together methods that work for you and your niches, and taking hopefully the idea of principles and how these principles apply for who you're working with, for the different clientele or the niche that you're working with. And it's almost like developing your tool belt more, right? So when you go into work, you have your set tool belt of what you need to do, from cueing, correcting, conversations, discussions, assessments, feedback. And you essentially can get to that final stage, which is mastery. And it's like, well, who gets to that mastery stage? I don't know. But it's this middle level stage that can take a long time for a lot of people, and people either stay there and get stuck there, or they continue to elevate themselves into that master level, right? And I look at that craftsman stage, if you want to relate it to martial arts, right, or jiu-jitsu. That's like your blue, purple, brown belts, right? And in that stage, some people stay there and quit and kind of float back and forth. And the people that stay into it and continually learn and develop and progress get to that black belt stage, that mastery level stage, where most people with black belts kind of have discussions of like they're relearning all over again, right? They're just a white belt that's stuck in it longer. And I think with inside the sport of coaching, very similar, where people can get caught in that craftsman level stage when they think they know enough, or they think they know it all, or they think what they have is good enough for the people that they're working with. And it may be good enough, it may be great. But the problem in my eyes is you as a person, as a coach, get stuck in a rut where you can have little development and challenges and ways to continually push and elevate you. Because the more you continually look to elevate who you are and the way you think about things and the way you utilize your tools that you have, the more refined you become, and the better coach you become, a better human you become with your feedback and your association, your conversations. So for me as a coach, and even as a person, I'm always searching to find ways that I can elevate myself. I can continually bring myself up other notches and get closer to that mastery level stage, that black belt level stage. Because at that point, that's when I feel like I'm doing myself a service, as opposed to doing myself a disservice by staying stagnant with where I am, right? And I know for me, Ryan, like every year I try to pick out things of what I want to focus on more, what I want to dive into more, who I need to mentor with, who I want to mentor with, to go down some rabbit holes a little bit more. And I know you're the same way. So what are your thoughts around coaching and development for self-growth?
I mean, speaking to my own personal experience of mentor, obviously I've mentored under you. I've mentored arguably more than what I should have. I think you can almost push yourself into a corner where you're only mentoring and you're not actually applying anything. But outside of that, I just think I like evolution. Every coach has their own way of approaching athlete assessment, athlete challenges, development, refinement, all of those things. The coaches use different words, they use different assessment protocol. And I think, especially in our sport, if you pigeonhole yourself into one method or one means of doing thing, you never have the opportunity to evolve with the sport. And I think our sport, more than most sports, is just in a forever, or at least continual phase of evolution. The athletes keep getting better. The demands of the sport keep increasing. And if you're stuck in, early 90s methods, or you really haven't taken the opportunity to follow along with current trends or current data and research, you can't have the expectation of being an elite level coach. And that's not saying that the foundations don't work. Obviously, we can go back in history and find universal principles that have stood the test of time. But there's also a lot of current research that may have debunked some of that stuff, or have just given us better options from a training perspective. And I think you're going to beat yourself into the ground if you're trying to learn those things by yourself. Like for me, my mentoring experience has been about connecting breadcrumbs. We're all bring specific points I want to learn about, and I reach out to a specific type of coach who can help me connect those dots of my own thoughts and the things that I've learned up until that point.
Yeah. I think our upbringing in the informational age puts a higher emphasis on seeking and learning than it does now. And what I mean by that is, am I older than you? How old are you?
40, bro. You're definitely older than me.
Yeah, I'm older than you. So 5 years, but you're still kind of similar to me a little bit. So when I was coaching, when I got out of college, with inside the coaching field, IG lives, Facebook lives, courses online, like that wasn't a thing. That wasn't even out yet. Right. So for me, and I'm assuming for you as well, maybe a little bit for you when you got started, but for me, any single time I wanted to learn something, I'd have to read a book or I'd have to find that coach and try to contact them or visit them or hang out with them and have this higher pursuit of acquiring knowledge versus just sitting around and being able to do stuff in my living room. And I think that instilled this journey of education, kind of like instilled these habits of journeys for me, right? I know one time I wanted to put a little bit more focus on my Olympic lifts and my understanding of that. So I had to seek out Olympic weightlifting coaches and spend time with them. And I'd travel out to Mike Bergener's house and hang out there for like a weekend, just watch him coach and listen to him coach and kind of put myself around these individuals as much as I could, or invite coaches up to my spot, get them to do a seminar and then hang out with them for a couple of days. And there's lots of travel and expenses, but that was just kind of the way it was. Like you just understood that that's what you had to do if you wanted to learn from people that knew more than you. Whereas now I feel like it's shifted a bit, and it's almost like the informational age has hindered a lot of people because everything is so much online. However, everything that's online is like method based, or it's a program based, right? Or it's a something to get sales to, but it's done so at I don't want to use the word superficial, but a very kind of like low level point from these people who have these incredible minds, just because they're making it for like the masses, right? For a ton of people, right? And then they have different levels to it. But because of that, there's this lack of true understanding and application as far as like how they got to the point of this, or how they utilize this for different people, because it's just what they want to explain for this mass average of people. But we're not the average. Like you're not the average, right? The people you work with aren't the average. So people's understanding of then further background information around that has been hindered dramatically. But that's kind of like become the norm, right? Of like sitting in your room and going through these courses and taking it and reading it and passing a test, and that's moving on to the next thing without a true understanding of the whys behind it, the hows behind it, and then the application with it. And I think that hurts a lot of people in this day and age.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know we saw it firsthand. The information age has taken the critical thinking aspect out of coaching. The people, myself included, in this in the early stages, you buy coaches for answers, or you buy courses for like very specific answers, and 9 times out of 10 those answers are not in there because of exactly what you said. The courses are superficial in nature, not because the content isn't good, but it's impossible to get that deep into the weeds and talk to or answer everyone's questions with one video, like about a specific topic. And I think more obviously it comes down to time and the coach's desire to with what they want to put out. But I that's what I really like what we did, and obviously I'm biased, but we put out content, but then it's always accompanied with live calls, right? Where a lot of the content you digest in these courses is relatively similar. It's not that drastically different, but what you're realistically paying for is the decades of experience of the coaches delivering it. And when you have that ability to dissect and digest the pre-recorded content and then talk to a coach about personal experiences or bounce ideas off them, that's where I think digital education can be super valuable. But if you don't have that, you're really not getting that deep into the weeds of the thing.
Right. And the key part right there is what he said is the decades of experience of application behind what they're talking about, which is, to me, where you make the money, right? And you got to understand, the better you understand that from a coach's point of view and why they're doing it and how they apply it and how they apply it to different individuals and how it could be applied to the people that you work with, that's where you're going to be able to take the most information home. I think that's something that we did really well with our mentorship. like you just explained, because of those live calls, we're able to take this information that, like you said, it's not new information. It's not different information. Like training the glycolytic system is training the glycolytic system. Like developing hypertrophy and strength and power is developing hypertrophy, strength, and power, right? But the sequential application of those principles in regards to mixed modal sports across various populations, that's where that expertise is really going to come in handy for people with inside the course. Because now it's like, well, how do you apply it? Like we should hopefully understand these principles of strength and conditioning, understand how to build an aerobic base, how to build structure and structural integrity, how to build hypertrophy and convert that to strength and power, and different ways to work on power, strength, endurance, and ways to build strength for ring muscle-ups, handstand push-ups. How do we now combine these modalities over the span of a year, 2 years, 3 years to get people better for different mixed modal sports without causing excess fatigue and wear and tear in the body that's going to completely jack them up and leave them overreaching, overtraining, and then they're all jacked up, you know?
Yeah, it's easy to talk about at a granular level. Like, I feel like it's really easy to write like very basic examples of you're going to go A, B, C, D, and so forth. But there's no deep context
Right.
within any of that. And that's realistically, that's what you're paying for. You're not paying for the content. We've all pulled the information out of decades old books, and we're all working off of similar principles for the most part. But what you can't get out of a textbook is application experience.
Right.
You're
Where,
100%.
how do you think people can, I know we already said it, but just to kind of just to hammer the point home, how can people best learn ways of applying information?
I think there's two ways to do it. I think, and it really, I would almost say that you should do both ways, but you should absorb the information, like exhaust of much of the free education as you possibly can.
Mhm.
There's so much of it out there, and it's so easily to access. I'm not saying you shouldn't access what's already free out there, but then talk to somebody who is either experienced or more experienced than you are in the actual application of what it is that you're trying to learn, and then go do it yourself. I don't think there's no substitute for learning a concept or learning a method and making yourself do it. Like when you feel it, it's far easier to prescribe, or at the least prescribe it to your athlete and try to pull as much data out of them as you possibly can.
Yeah. Do you think people get in trouble? Because I know I used to do this. Like you go to a course, you take a course, they talk about a method, and then all of a sudden you come back to your gym or your clients, you try to apply it right away.
100%. Yeah.
Like I used to do that all the
100%.
time.
Yeah. And like,
But then it's like, well, how do you hold the reins on that? Because you definitely want to understand the application of it, but you understand it by doing it for a longer length of time. But sometimes you just don't have the time for it. You want to take the person's word.
don't have the time to test it yourself, you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, you have to be okay with potentially setting someone back a little bit. And
Mm.
that could come through conversation. I know I've had athletes who they enjoy being guinea pigs. Like they, for whatever reason, enjoyed me going out, learning new things, and me coming back and be like, hey, I just learned this new thing. Are you interested in trying it? And I think it just comes down to conversation. Would I do that with my more advanced competitive athletes? Definitely not. Like they're on a stricter training schedule. I'm not going to kind of derail them because I learned something new. But if I have an athlete who, is maybe more of my like gen pop athlete, or isn't so stringent, maybe they're in an off season or something like that, and they want to play a little bit, I think that's a really good opportunity if you have a conversation up front with them and be like, hey, this is what we're going to do. Not sure how it's going to work out, but we're going to prescribe it. You're going to do it. Conversation is priority one. And if we're like, hey, we don't really like where this is going, you pivot.
Yeah. So you mentioned on it, but you mentioned it quickly, but let me ask it to you again. So then when is the right time in your mind to try something new that a coach has learned?
I mean,
and for who? So let's take it as a competitor. You work with a competitor, someone that, when I say competitor, I'm not just saying, hey, they're a games athlete. When I say competitor, I mean someone that's training to compete at whatever sort of level, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you learn a new technique that can involve them with the help of a skill set or a new method. When do you put that in for that person?
Well, first I would have exhausted conversation with someone else who's already applied it, but it would definitely be somewhere in the off season and someone nowhere near any sort of competitive peak.
Yeah, right.
That's like the off season. The off season for me, for a lot of my athletes, it's not that it's not structured, but it's an opportunity for more play,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like some athletes like to suffer when they play. Like if you're learning like a new conditioning method or something like that, like as long as they've gone through, like they've had a break from the competitive season, and I'm not just dosing them with more intensity or anything like that right after the competitive season, the off season's playtime. It's time to learn. It's time to find the weaknesses, find the holes in our athletes, and then develop them from there, continuing to refine as the season starts to, or as we start to get closer and closer to the actual season's building phases.
Yeah, yeah. And I think to piggyback on that, for coaches listening, you have to look at what it is that you're trying to put in and where it falls on the spectrum of adherence with your athlete. So what I mean by that is if it's something that that's going to create a lot of work to recreate, remove, repatternize something, or even redevelop something, then you want to do that, like Ryan said, in the off season. If it's something small that could add efficiency that doesn't have a huge risk to reward, then that's something that you could sprinkle in smaller dosages at different times, if that makes sense to everybody, right? Like it's like, hey, try this kipping method on a muscle up to improve efficiency for volume, right? Something like that you can put in at the right time, as long as it's not going to have a negative return by doing that. If it's something, hey, if you need to enhance their anaerobic threshold by completely revamping their aerobic capacity, well, that's something that could take 12 weeks and could refine and could have them take one step back to take a few steps forward. Stuff like that you need to put in during the off season, where when you put it in the off season, the risk versus reward is a lot marginalized than if you put it in during competition season, where it could be a higher risk to mess them up.
I think you also look at the athlete, right? You're like, you look at the method that you're trying to apply and be like, does this actually have a carryover to making them better? Right? Like if I already have somebody who hammers on the bike and their capacity is phenomenal, like they're already elite level, I may not take them through that progression, right? Because knowing that they are already high output and they're already going to, they have the potential of smoking themselves in the off season, where if it's like, hey, I know this person's already elite in this one specific thing, but the recovery is kind of dog shit, maybe I'm going to use that method on them versus somebody else. So I think like athlete dependent, athlete context, you can still be smart about it. You don't just like willy-nilly just apply this to all your athletes. Pick and choose the ones that it could actually have some benefit for.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ryan, who are your mentors?
Say,
or just
currently,
in general, however you want to go about it.
Currently, I'm a free agent. I'm not mentoring under anybody.
Say you call yourself a free agent.
I'm really interested in Spencer Nix's stuff over at BPR. I've kind of talked to you a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm.
That is very much, I think he is doing some really phenomenal things on the language side and lifestyle coaching of athletes. Something I know I can get better at coaching. Like I think he has a very unique system, and so if you haven't checked him out, I'm 100% happy shouting him out. I think he's putting out some really dope stuff. George, he was over at Softly, and then now currently owns Omni Athlete. George Briones. He's been coaching me for a while. I love his approach to training. I run pretty hot as an athlete and will burn myself out, and he does a really good job of reining me in. And I went through his mentorship, another one, phenomenal. I think George is a badass, super smart mind in the space. And then before that was you. I don't know how long I mentored under you, but I was a freshie. Freshie coach coming up there.
Yeah, I got you straight out of college into the pros.
Yeah, 100%. So like I've, and like our friend Angelo, like I mentored under him for a lot of years, which was like great for my own like personal development. So like I've been around the block, like I've spent a lot on courses. Like I think most coaches, I double down on all that. When a new one would come out, I'd be on it and not finish it. So I'm currently in a phase of life that I'm going back and forcing myself to redo those and actually try to pull some information out of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. For me, man, I've mentored with a lot of people over the years, from James Fitzgerald to, I remember James Fitzgerald, he's probably my first real mentor. And that was when he was OPT That was when he was in Canada with a training studio over his garage.
Was that
And there's like,
CCP?
oh yeah, DCP
Yeah.
wasn't even a
Yeah,
thought.
that's,
Like this was
that's
like,
what I thought.
it's like CJ Martin, myself, and a couple people from Canada. Mike Fitzgerald, maybe Mike were there for the first one. Ben Kelly, we were there for like the first one. And this was, again, we were in Canada hanging out at like a Holiday Inn conference room. And his training facility was like over his garage, right? In Canada. And then from there, Max came through, Think Tank, and a couple of people. So we were kind of the ones that kind of stuck through it. And then he moved out to Arizona, and that's when it kind of turned into, I don't know if did he call it CCP? Maybe, I don't even know. Yeah, that's when it started up in there. But I was there for a while, and then, whether it was like, recently it's been Mike Nelson, Brett Bartholomew.
Shout out to Mike Nelson. Just go. That is like
Yeah.
so humble, so smart. If you haven't taken a course or heard Mike Nelson talk, put that on your list.
Yeah. Yeah, something I try to do is every year I try to pick one or two topics that I want to dive deeper into. And then I look for people that I connect with who are good in that topic. And then I try to mentor with them until I get to where I need to be. For me, it's like I have to be able to connect with the person. We got to have similar personalities. I got to be able to have the conversation with them. So I look for that as well in my mentorship. But yeah, I mean, I know I just said 3 people. I probably had like a list of 15 to 20 people over the last 18, 20 years of individuals that I've all learned from. I feel like for me, I learn from everybody. I continually learn. I learn from you. I learn from anybody that's around me. And that's what I always try to do is make sure I can always put myself in a position where I'm around people that I can continue to learn from. In the beginning days with like Kelly Starrett, I was around him a lot, and Brian McKenzie, I was around him a lot, and all the CrossFit people, I was around a ton. And then every time I go to Power Monkey, I make sure I have conversations with all the coaches out there. So the more you can put yourself around people who know a lot, but who also challenge and push you to elevate your game, to keep pushing you to be better. When I say pushing you to be better, that doesn't mean they're physically like, hey, what are you doing? What do you have going on? Because that shit gets annoying too. But it's just like being around someone's presence that's trying to continually elevate themselves is going to make you want to elevate yourself as well, or you're not going to be around them, right? Is what I've realized, So those are the people I try to put myself around and have conversations with. And it should be an easy conversation. And I always get a lot out of that.
Just knowing you for however many years now, you are one of the more collaborative coaches I've ever met. Like, you very willingly share information, share what you're doing, how you're coaching someone, why you're coaching them this specific way. And that's really hard to find in the space. Anybody that's gone out on the hunt and has searched for a mentor, it can be a daunting process sometimes. Some coaches just don't want to do it. And like, whatever, it's like if they're busy, I get it. They don't feel like they can dedicate the time. But you've always been really receptive to that. And I think it's really good for the community itself to be able to have access to you. Like, it's very healthy.
Yeah, thank you.
So much experience.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I think for me, it was, I think it's because every time I sought people out, and I still seek people out, everybody's so willing to share information with me that it's like a pay it forward type thing. Like I've never run into this situation. I don't know, maybe I just chose the right people, but I've never been in a situation where people were hesitating. But it was also different back then too, because it wasn't the informational age. So it wasn't people trying to blast their like social media following and be like, the big swinging person from the ego standpoint. Everyone's just trying to make everybody better to elevate the strength and conditioning field, right? And I do think it has shifted a bit now because, of social media and Instagram and information and online coaching and getting clients, and everyone's starting to get a little bit more of this, umbrella hold under their
scarcity almost, it feels like.
Yeah. But anyways, if you're out there and you want to be the best coach you could possibly become, our second Conquer Athlete Mentorship is starting up July 2nd. It is a one-of-one. I can't talk about it enough. And yes, I am biased around it, but I'm biased because I know how much hard work Ryan and I have put into it with the videos, the content, the one-on-one calls, the cohort calls, the individual assignments, the feedback on the individual assignments. I truly feel that there's nothing out there like it with inside the mixed modal space. And if you're really looking to separate yourself as a coach, we only take 10 people per cohort. So I highly recommend that you get in this next one and put yourself on the track to be the coach that you want to be. All right, that's it. We hope you guys enjoy the show. We'll be back next week with some more stuff to talk about. Again, give us a like, give us a share, follow. If you guys have something you want to hear us talk about, please feel free to drop us a message with it, whether it's at help@conquerathlete.com or on Ryan's Instagram, Ryan Bucciantini, _Bucciantini.
Yeah, it's like
You don't even know. You don't even know.
Bucciantini _1
Yeah.
_.
Yeah.
Just DM our guy Jake at Conquer Athlete. Send him whatever questions you got. Jake's bored. He needs something to do. So shoot your questions there, and we'll address them on the next one.
Later, guys.